Hey, Unruly Subjects, it's Chinjirai, and I need your help to keep the show going strong. If you love what we do here, consider supporting us by joining our Patreon community. It's the best way to back the show, and you get some incredible benefits in return. Membership starts at just $5 a month. I mean, there's nothing that cheap, at least in New York. And you immediately get ad-free episodes and exclusive premium episodes. That includes interview outtakes and other extras you ain't gonna hear anywhere else. But that's not all. You can access the Unruly chat and polls. When we have a live event, you're gonna get the pre-sale tickets and the merch. Oh my God, the merch. You know the merch is gonna be fly. And you receive invitations to our Q&A live streams and, my favorite, our annual exclusive hangout with me, the producers, and a special guest. So yo, come on people, join the Unruly mob. Visit patreon.com/unrulysubjects. And thank you for making this show possible. Rohome Productions. Welcome to Unruly Subjects. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I'm calling in just to say I've been listening to your show, and I feel like you're making a real contribution.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Who am I talking to?
My name is P-Dog.
P-Dog.
Yep, that's my name. That's what they call me.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, P-Dog, what's on your mind today? Why are you calling in the show?
Well, again, I listen to your show. I think you're making a real contribution, but sometimes you sound a little bit down on America, and I think when you do that, you lose people. You know, in my opinion, the America I've known is always an America where a little guy can have a shot. It's an America where when we pull together, we can do something bigger. An America that I've always known is an America where a young woman from Hawaii can have a son who could go on to be president. And this is the place where that kind of thing is possible. And it's unlike any place in the world. And I just feel like your show doesn't seem to recognize that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this feedback, P-Dog. By the way, has anyone told you sound a lot like Barack Obama, the president?
No, people no one has told me that.
Yeah, you do. I'm not, it would be absurd for you to be calling in.
No, that would be absurd. I'm just a regular guy, a black male from the community who's calling in to your show, P-Dog.
Yeah, no, I get that. And so, it sounds like you're a little bit more patriotic than I am, but I'm with you in the sense that, I would love to make this country the kind of place you're describing, and maybe not even just this country, right? Because, why stop at national borders?
Well, there's something specific about America that's not about open borders. It's not about socialism, but it is about doing what's possible to make the country better. And I just think when your show starts to go a little too far to the left, you're doing that a disservice. And that's coming from my perspective as a black male from the community.
You're right. Yes, named P-Dog. I hear you. All right, P-Dog. Well, thank you for calling. I hope you keep listening to Unruly Subjects. All right?
All right.
Peace.
Yeah.
What up, y'all? Unruly Subjects is back in the building with another banger. You know what I mean? Turn up your speakers. Turn up your headphones. Shout out to Rohome. Shout out to my wife, Sadaka, my daughter, Yola. Shout out to P-Dog. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we can help your political education, but thank you for listening, for calling in. You know what I mean? I'm so excited about this week's episode. I read this incredible essay in Hammer and Hope about electoral politics and how we engage different communities, and I wanted to talk about that, right? So I went deep into my networks, and I'm excited to report that I sat down with a leader in the Democratic Socialists of America, but not just any leader. I sat down with the leader of the Afrosocialists and Socialists of Color Caucus of DSA, Maya Meredith. That's right. Maya's gonna be dropping some real jewels. And if you've been wondering about what you can do about ICE and all the violent and horrific work going on, you know what I'm saying? But you're not sure how to get involved, right? You're not sure what you're risking. I spoke to someone from Hands Off NYC who can give us concrete details about that exact thing. What you can do is we not standing on the sidelines, y'all. You know what I mean? Nah. And we have a hilarious update on my daughter and Yola's mission to find the best ice cream in New York. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But yo, another reason why I'm so amped up today is that I know today is the day you're going to become a subscriber at Unruly Subjects Patreon. That's right. Yeah. You know, you've been meaning to do it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And today you're going to manifest that by going over to unrulysubjectspodcast.com and you're going to get a paid or free subscription. What makes our show so exciting is that it's independent. You know what I mean? And we want to stay that way. We only want to be accountable to you and to the moment. You know what I mean? The other thing is that we've been working on this show for a while, and we're doing it for free right now. It takes resources. There's more that we want to do. So we need your help with that. And here's the thing, y'all. We got an annual subscription. So you can head on over to unrulysubjectspodcast.com and get an annual subscription at whatever level works for you. $5, $25, you know what I mean? More. And then you ain't got to think about it for another year. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, you're going to get extra episodes, different content. You'll get like more news analysis, conversations, polls. But the main thing is we just want you to support us. So head on over to unrulysubjectspodcast.com and get involved. I've been watching all this horrible footage of these ICE agents just going apeshit and, you know, arresting people, tackling people, breaking windows. And I know you've been seeing it. And personally, I've been feeling like I'm not enough in this fight myself. And I wasn't quite sure really where to start. And then I started seeing all these incredible posts of actions and trainings by a coalition called Hands Off NYC. So with us today, we have Daniel Coates, who's one of the central organizers with Hands Off. And Daniel took some time out of his very hectic schedule to join us to kind of put us up on game. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and the invitation.
So first of all, what's your sort of elevator pitch explainer for people who are just like maybe not already involved in organizing and like, you know, they're seeing all this stuff, right? And they're like, what do we do? I'm an ordinary person. I'm working. I'm probably already overwhelmed. This capitalism and everything else is like, what's your elevator pitch for, you know, what's going on and what we should do about it?
I think if you have, like me, been appalled and surprised and scared about what the federal government is doing and wondered, how do I get involved? And can I make a difference? The answer is you should and you need to get involved, and you can. And the way that you can is by getting involved at your neighborhood level. It all starts there. And Hands Off is about getting New Yorkers trained and moving together to say no to any federal incursion, but also to talk about and build the city that we want, the city that we need, and to do it all with a uniquely New York flavor.
And we're actually seeing people step up, like here in really around the country, but also here in New York recently in ways that really shows that it matters if people come out. Could you talk about some of what's happened in New York?
Yeah. I mean, in big and small ways, New Yorkers have been stepping up across the board. You know, thousands of New Yorkers have been getting out there and doing accompaniment and court watch.
Mm-hmm.
We can accompany people. We can make sure they know their rights, and connected to that. And maybe a natural extension of it is starting to like be eyes on the street in your neighborhood, and be connected to networks of rapid response where people can come together who want to, document, disrupt, make it harder, right? Be sand in the gears, right? Now, we're not breaking the law, but we're certainly making it more difficult for them to accomplish their goals that we don't agree with.
Raising the cost of fascism.
Exactly. Raising the cost of fascism. Thank you for naming it. So, New Yorkers autonomously organized. Thousands of people have been trained this year and, for example, got out and got in front of a bunch of ICE vehicles that were trying to come out and conduct what would have probably been the biggest raid in the city to date. They were blocking ICE from exiting the parking garage, and that foiled a raid. People could be blowing whistles when they hear something that tells people to walk the other direction, which is also foiling a raid in many ways. Or, they could be educating people about not opening their doors and what a judicial warrant looks like and what it doesn't look like, so that people know, if ICE does knock on your door, what your rights are. And, they can also help tell the story. Like people who have been, there's a really terrible case of a father and a son who were separated and picked up at a routine immigration check-in from Astoria a couple weeks ago, and elevating those stories, helping people understand what is going on is critical, right? Like that's the way we're gonna sort of shift the tide, back against authoritarianism. They're all really, really important pieces.
Now, we're recording this the week of December 8th. There's a weekend of action this weekend. What's going on with that, and how can people plug in?
Just to kind of step back 1 second, we're in a moment in New York where we're about to get a new mayor. It's very different from the current mayor in terms of his orientation towards federal immigration authorities and others. And so we fully expect to see an increase. In fact, we have started to see an uptick in ICE activity just the past couple of weeks. So we really are trying to educate and get the word out. And so what we're inviting New Yorkers to do is join together with your neighbors and figure something out. You can go to handsoffnyc.com, which is the campaign website. That you can find resources there. You can register your event there. And that's really what we're asking New Yorkers to do. These are small ways that we want everybody across the city to be bumping into, so that you're getting your zine that tells you about the salute mechanism for how to report ICE in ways that are most helpful for rapid response. We want you to get your whistle and understand, one loud blow for ICE is actively involved in an enforcement action kind of thing, to let your neighbors know.
Is it possible to demonstrate the whistle signals? Because we're in audio format.
Yeah. So the theory behind this: stay loud, form a crowd. You can be sand in the gears of fascism. And one way to do it is with the whistle. Short blasts of the whistle are signaling that you see ICE, their agents are nearby, like this.
All right, so that's like agents. Do you hear those short blasts? That's like, yo, they're in the area.
They're out there. Be careful. All right. And then if something is going down, if agents are there and they are actively picking people up or trying to get into a building or whatever, it's just sustained.
All right, got you. So if I hear that, it's like they got the hands on somebody. They're actually taking action. They're not just around. So you hear those long blasts. We know what that is. You know what I mean?
And that's what we want everybody to know. So some people want to run towards, some people want to run away. But regardless, the information is out there. We want to be able to communicate that. And that's why the whistle is so effective.
That last part is really key, which is that hearing those sounds, if you hear that, you hear those short blasts, blah, 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 blah. Maybe some people might need to get out of there because they might be really vulnerable category of person. Other people might be like, yo, okay, now is the time to assemble some people so we can observe and see what's going on, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I love that. That's really helpful. Just for people outside of New York, are there any coalitions, similar coalitions, or ways people can plug in? I know that there's people who want to take steps, but outside of New York, what should people do to plug in and support?
That's a great question. And I think my answer would be to take inspiration from things like Hands Off, things like Free DC, Hands Off Chicago, and they're in LA and the Bay Area and Memphis and Charlotte, in addition to those other cities. I think we're all like learning and building a similar playbook. So I think, first of all, taking some inspiration and looking at the toolkits, you do not have to reinvent the wheel here. There's so much out there that you can learn. And then really it can be as small as talking to your block or talking to your apartment building or talking to your PTA. Like, start somewhere and start to make a plan based on what you think is your biggest risk. For example, it could be a school issue. Like so many people have been organizing around making sure that students get to school and back from school in a way that is safe. And that can be a thing you can organize around. Maybe it's about businesses. So take inspiration from elsewhere and then think through what is the thing that you are most concerned about and what is the smallest first step that you can take to get something moving.
Daniel Coates, thank you for helping me to understand, what I can do. I just feel like so much more educated and empowered. And we want to hope we can have Hands Off back on to really give us a longer, more robust breakdown.
We would love to. Thank you, Chenjerai, for everything that you're doing. It's awesome.
All right. Take care. Let me just give y'all a quick update on our hotline situation. First of all, our hotline is 215-436-9212. Last week, the question involved how we raise our kids and whether differences in how we raise our kids have to do more with race and ethnicity or generation or other things. I've definitely seen things that range from just what I would call rude behavior, not acknowledging people, never saying please or thank you, running wild all over the place. But I've also seen, straight up kids slap their parents, and I know that there's a real impression among Black folks when they see that. They're like, yeah, that's what white folks do. They let their kids get away with anything, talk to them anyway, cuss at them, that kind of thing. Now, to me, these things I know that they're not really racial, primarily because, I know that there's a lot of white folks that definitely believe in an authoritarian form of parenting. So it likely has more to do with class, but it could also be generation, because a lot of parents I see who are trying to do gentle parenting are younger people who are really trying not to pass on stuff that was done to them that was too authoritarian. And, we're trying to give our kids some agency. So I get it. So I just wanted to get your take on this. 215-436-9212. Don't be shy, y'all. You know what I'm saying? You can keep it anonymous. Next up, we have my conversation with the brilliant Maya Meredith, who's one of the leaders of the Afrosocialists and Socialists of Color Caucus of DSA. I can't wait for y'all to hear this conversation, so that's coming up after the break. This episode of Unruly Subjects is brought to you by Haymarket Books, which has loads of great left-wing titles, perfect for listeners like you. And one that I know you're going to feel is The Extended Universe, How Disney Killed the Movies and Took Over the World by Vicky Osterweil. A provocative history of Disney's rise to cultural dominance, The Extended Universe pulls skeletons from the corporate closet to decode the political messages hidden in all your favorite childhood movies. In The Extended Universe, Vicky Osterweil takes us on a quest to discover how Disney's Imagineers have made it impossible to reflect on the wonders of growing up without thinking of Disney's movies, amusement parks, and merchandising. Drawing on extensive interviews with filmmakers, screenwriters, union organizers, and Disney adults alike, Osterweil unearths reactionary political commitments and maleficent legal maneuvers so cartoonishly evil they would make one of Walt's own animated villains blush. As Natasha Leonard puts it, Osterweil is the brilliant, generous, and revolutionary guide we need to rethink cultural production today and kill the mouse inside our heads. Find The Extended Universe at haymarketbooks.org, where all hardcover books are 10% off every day.
This is the Queen Valley Gay Expressway. The next stop is
All right, getting off at Nostrand Ave, headed over to another world. Meet Maya.
Bong bong, what's going on? Maya, how you doing? Oh my God, thank you so much for meeting me out here in this cold weather.
That's Maya Meredith, our guest this week. Maya is a leader in DSA's Afrosocialists and Socialists of Color Caucus. She has close to a decade of experience in growth strategy and fundraising for organizations that are building toward economic opportunity, well-being, and liberation for the multiracial working class, including Movement for Black Lives, Make the Road New York, and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund.
So we're at Another World, which is a movement center that is in Crown Heights.
We met at a place called Another World, which is a home base for a lot of organizing in New York.
Another World is this amazing space for like community-based orgs to be able to host events, for just like people to come off the street and be able to use resources like the printer, the Wi-Fi, the bathroom, which we all need in New York, but also to really be building power like block by block in Crown Heights.
I want to start out on a little bit more of a like informal note. Like, what's something that you're looking forward to eating?
Oh, man. So I'm actually really into cooking. And so usually I would have a strong answer for this, but I don't even have a meal plan for this week because I've been so busy. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I can say is that I'm actually I'm facilitating a meeting for the Afrosocialist Caucus tonight, and I know that empanadas are going to be delivered because we always have food at our meeting. So looking forward to that, I guess.
Oh no, empanadas! You don't know where from, right? We don't know who.
I would have to like look it up. I don't have it offhand.
We're gonna have to do that before we leave because I need to know where the empanada plug is. All our people want to know. What do you cook? I used to tell people that I bake, but now I don't do that because you got to be serious. People pull out the baking, you know what I mean? I
am a serious baker, but I would not dunk on anybody who was not as intense about it. But yeah, I cook a lot. I lean towards, at home, I like to do either like East Asian food or like food from the Levant. So like if I'm doing vegetarian stuff, more like from the Levant, doing stuff with like chickpeas, harissa, that kind of thing. And if I'm not doing vegetarian, I'm usually doing like some kind of East Asian, Korean, Japanese food type deal. But yeah, I also bake a lot. Actually, the person that's hosting us in the space today, Cheryl, I did her birthday cake last year.
Oh, hey, Cheryl, come. All right, hold on. Wait a minute. Cheryl, you got the birthday cake. How was that? Was it serious?
It was so good. And honestly, like every time Maya invites me to her house for any sort of food, I'm really excited because I can't cook, y'all. So I just be like, let me try to get up in this house with Maya. She's bringing the cake. She's bringing the dinner. She can do it all. She's doing like the appetizers, the mains, and the desserts. So I'm just grateful.
So do I got a canvas? How can I get that? I got to bring my daughter. Like, how can we?
You got to get in that. You got to get in that group. This is why you got to organize, because you might meet somebody like Maya who's going to bring the full like multi-course meal after the organizing meeting.
So how did you even get into this work at all?
So I moved to New York for college, and after I graduated, I moved to Crown Heights. And it was the first time that I had lived in a neighborhood that was like blackity black, and which felt incredible. But I also saw the way that housing affordability was pushing Black people out of the neighborhood. And so I wanted to learn more about like housing rights and housing justice. And as I started to study that more, it just became really clear that like the way that our economic system works is like always going to do this. And that was a big thing that pushed me to become anti-capitalist and eventually socialist.
Right, because you actually were sort of immersed in the material conditions. And this is what I try to explain to people sometimes. People don't understand why people wind up with these kind of politics. And I'm like, I'm around organizers who can break stuff down. There's very compelling books and social media, but nothing can politicize people like actually living through it. Living through the real sort of brutal, conditions that capitalism creates, that white supremacy creates, that patriarchy creates. People are like in this, and they're in this. I think, a lot of folks are like, they want something different. So DSA has some exciting news coming up, right?
Yeah. So DSA is going to be running several races in 2026, especially in the state legislature. We have two of our what we call socialists in office, Assemblymember Farah Forrest and State Senator Jabari Brisport, who are going to be running for re-election. But we also have two insurgent candidates running for state assembly, Ian Tyrell Huntley in like the Bed-Stuy area and Christian Celeste Tate in like the Bushwick and Eastern Brooklyn area.
And this is like, we can announce this publicly? It's out there?
Yes. It's by the time this airs, like all those campaigns have launched. So by the time this airs, it'll be all good.
Yeah. We getting, all right. So the stakes of us figuring out some of these issues with how we engage communities are really important because we have, this vision of what's going to happen. We're thinking about that. We're not looking just back. We're looking forward to the next wins. So there's people who look this whole conversation we're having about Black folks and electoral politics, and they're like, why are we even talking about Black people when a majority of white folks continue to elect politicians with really horrific and harmful policies and practices? It's like, is this like, even there were these fears about the Mamdani campaign, and as you narrate, Black organizers got on the ground, a number of people got on the ground, but then, and we wound up actually being, I think, at every age group, Black voters voted overwhelmingly for Mamdani in the general. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a bad way to have this conversation about Black voters and a smarter way. Why do you think it's important for us to talk about this at all? Maybe we should just be talking about white folks.
I think that voters across the country are inside of a broad problem of just feeling like politicians aren't doing anything for them, no matter kind of what side of the aisle that they're on. And so something that ends up being really attractive is those candidates that are willing to say, yes, this system isn't working, and like, I'm gonna like flip it, turn it upside down, turn it inside out in order to make it better or to make the world better for you. We know that there are certain politicians that are saying that are not trying to make the world better for our people, but people really broadly, I think, do really want change and don't want to keep being told, like, if you go along with what we're currently doing and we just do a better job of what we were doing before, everything will be fine, right? And so that's for white and Black voters. For Black voters specifically, for leftists, there's this sense of like, why would you vote against your interests, quote unquote, by like voting for Cuomo or Adams who aren't actually delivering for you, or any other candidate that isn't actually making promises to deliver for you. And I think that one thing that's experienced by some people in the Black community is like, there's that feeling of just being taken for granted by the Democratic Party because it's always assumed that we'll vote for them because the alternative is racist. But the Democratic Party isn't delivering for us either. So the alternative, so vote for the other side or don't vote at all, right? So there's a level of apathy. I think something that I also really appreciated, something that Justin Freeman told me when I interviewed him for Hammer and Hope. He's the community affairs director for Assemblymember Farah Forrest's office. He pointed out that like Black people have been organizing. Like these Black elders, you might be assuming that they have just been like hanging out watching TV or on Facebook, but like they were the ones organizing, like doing tenant organizing and community organizing, like when they were our age. And like they've been through it. They did all of that, and now we're here, right? They did all of that, and they saw like the Panthers and other Black liberatory projects get taken out by the FBI. They saw the political prisoners get taken away. They saw the state terror against MOVE in Philadelphia. They have like real reasons to fear state violence if we make real attempts to like change the status quo. And so I think that is like a really valuable kind of like new slice at this issue. Like it's not just apathy because nothing has changed. It's also like fear and trauma from being inside the work and now being where we ended up. And so like recognizing that like Black people have been inside of this fight in a very different way and are therefore experiencing the world that we live in now, where not only have things not changed, but they've actually gotten worse in a lot of ways. We're experiencing that differently, and it has like a different impact on the level of cynicism that we might bring to an electoral project.
No, that's so real. I mean, it actually reminds me of a conversation I had with my mom many years ago. My mom has been a long time, worker in the space of civil rights, and she chose to focus on public health. So she focused a lot on public health issues. But I remember, and my mom's, so she's very politically engaged in a number of ways. But I remember coming back to her one time. I don't know what I would forget what protest or, encampment it was. It was something. And I was like, yeah, I was real hyped up, because I was really excited that there was momentum. I was like, yeah, people are turning up and they're doing this, and the police showed up to do this, but people are still, pushing forward. And I think it was actually in South Carolina, because I used to live there. And my mom was just kind of frowning. I'm thinking she's going to be proud. Like, look, Ma, I'm doing it. And her first hit was like, she was kind of frowning, and she said, and I was like, what's going on? And she was like, we already did this. Like everything I was saying that was inspiring, because I would feel like there was momentum. It was heartbreaking for her to be like, here we still are. Like, why is my son? I fought for this world my whole life, and now my son is here fighting what essentially feels like the same battles. And so, eventually she was proud, to be clear, but it hit her like that. And I like the way that you're putting some real nuance. Sometimes when we talk about people, we just talk about them in terms of they're just cynical or they're just on the couch. The couch is another discourse I think we need to intervene in. We use the couch to talk about people that didn't vote, but I'm like, when I walk out in New York, I don't see a lot of people on the couch. You know what I see a lot of people on? Messenger bikes and working and all these other things. But I don't think people understand the pace of people's lives. There's a lot of other stuff people can be doing besides engaging with voting or whatever.
Literally on election day, I did poll site visibility in Bed-Stuy, and I had this really great conversation with this young Latino man who wanted me to like explain the different mayoral candidates and like why he should support Zohran. And then he was like, I actually have to go catch the bus because I'm going to go join the Marines, and then I have to go to work. So is there somewhere else that I can vote? And I was like, he was like, can I do it later today? And I was like, you have to vote in your neighborhood. So you would, if this is your poll site, like you would need to get back here by 9 to do it. But like, I feel like that's such a stark illustration of what you were just saying.
Ooh, yeah, here he is, right, going to join the Marines. You see it all right there, right? Trying to figure out what the economic program looks like, but has to catch the bus over here, but can't get to, yeah, exactly. So this person was not on the couch.
Yeah, and he was like interested and excited, but he like literally did not have time that day.
It's so fascinating to read your work and hear you talk and hear your analysis, because, you're working with DSA, and there's a lot of people who are here talk about DSA in the abstract. People who are watching these elections. I think after the Mamdani election, there's a lot of people who reached out to me and they're like, the mayor's not going to be able to deliver on stuff, and I don't know if they're ready for that. And I said, I feel like there are people who actually got Mamdani elected, at least thinking about that. Like, it's not like I need to, weigh in. But a lot of people don't know what the internal landscape is and how people are thinking about tackling the realistic things. And so I just feel like any insight you want to give us on, how are people? Because some people want to cast DSA like they're just unrealistic dreamers, or they're just everybody's like, a lot of people cast DSA like ultra leftists who don't think about anything practical. And at the same time, you do have the real tensions that you're bringing up. So anything you could say that help or give people a little bit more clarity about what's going on and maybe what they can do other than, if they have concerns other than just to launch these critiques at a cocktail party.
Sure. So this reminds me of another conversation that I had on the doors when somebody told me that he doesn't vote because he doesn't trust politicians. And I was like, I think that you can trust that we'll win the things that we're saying are going to happen, because this is not just about this candidate. There are many organizations like DSA, CAV organizing Asian communities, Daisy's Rising Up and Moving, DRUM, NYCC, New York Communities for Change, all of us that threw down on this campaign now want to make sure that all of those campaign promises actually happen. And we're very serious about that. And so within DSA, what that looks like is part of it is that we are part of the People's Majority Coalition, which is an alliance of organizations, including the ones that I just named, that are going to continue to do advocacy to make sure that those policies that were in Zohran's platform actually come to pass. Part of it is also recognizing, okay, fast and free buses, universal health care feels unrealistic. Where's the money going to come from? The money is going to come from the state budget. And that means that we need to tax the rich. So we need taxes on the rich that come from the state budget. And so a big project that NYCDSA is focused on right now is what we're calling Tax the Rich 3.0, because this is not the first time we're throwing down in this way. But to do this campaign work to ensure that the state budget includes the taxes that will unlock the revenue that is going to make these policies possible. I also think there's been an enormous amount of thought put into who is going into the transition team. And this is not like a DSA specific thing. I mean this from the perspective of the campaign and just from the left broadly. An enormous amount of thought is being put into who is in the transition team and who potentially goes into the administration that is going to figure out how to make this happen, and working with think tanks to help draw up what that policy might look like and what that implementation might look like.
I think you represent your approach to this work. I think is so clarifying because on one hand, you're hitting DSA with some real critiques, things folks got to think about if they want to win, and you know what I mean. But you're also doing that as part of an organization. I just think that's an important model to see because I think that sometimes people want to point out contradictions or problems as a reason to not participate because deep down, you know what I mean? Like maybe they don't want to participate anyway, right? But I think also on social media, one of the things I see is there's a lot of influencers who are talking about politics, but it's almost like the point is just to find somebody who's a hypocrite and the politics ends there. You know, and what I see you doing is really trying to work through real issues, engaging in hard critiques, robust debates, but really trying to ultimately get to something that we understand together and a way forward. You know, I don't know. What would you say to people who are maybe like, they're skeptical? They're like, dang, if there's all these issues, why are you still sticking with it?
Yeah, I mean, the call is coming from inside the house. And so I think that if you want to see a change in an organization, be inside that organization and fight for the change. That's what I'm trying to do. I think I genuinely believe that DSA is a really important vehicle to win socialism in this country. And I genuinely believe that we don't win socialism without Black people. So if Black people don't have an influence on how this organization works, then how successful can it really be? That's the core of what I bring to this work. Just like a strong commitment to wanting us to win and a strong commitment to like wanting to win for my people, you know? But that is also, again, like what I mean about like building the organization as an organization. My focus really is in thinking about how to bridge some of these differences internally and like work and struggle through it in a real way and address the way that the organization operates that alienates Black people and other people of color, and like really try to get down to brass tacks on this in order to like make the shifts that will make it possible for us to organize more effectively in the Black community.
Can you think of an experience you had in this space that really was either surprising or, you know, just like inspiring, like that reminded you like, okay, yeah, this is hard, but this is why it's important for us to do this?
Well, the most inspiring moment that comes to mind for me was actually the election night party that the Afrosocialist Caucus got to collaborate on with We Grew Here. Getting to be in the room that night, it was at a restaurant and bar in Prospect Heights, and it was wall to wall packed, all people of color, reggae and reggaeton on the speakers, and like cheering for Zohran Mamdani's win. that was such like a clear and stark representation to me that like, yeah, there are plenty of Black people and other people of color that are like, that really want this and fought for this. And I think that both, I've been so inspired by the way that We Grew Here has grown enormously just since like, I think roughly May when they launched. And also for me with the Afrosocialist Caucus, I helped us relaunch almost exactly a year ago this month. And I've gotten to see how much it's grown, and I've gotten to work directly with people who are brand new to organizing, who came in after the November election last year, weren't even registered Democrats, and now are like running projects inside DSA that I was able to like find through Afrosoc and like mentor and find pathways for them to get into work.
What kind of projects, for example?
Well, so I mentioned the Socialism is the People project. So one of my comrades that like came into the organization in November of last year ended up running the North Brooklyn Branch Community Solidarity Committee. And like I think like in under 6 months inside the organization, he was the one running that in partnership with another comrade.
And what did that looks like, just doing work in North Brooklyn?
So that looks like that work of mapping kind of the community-based organizations that are already embedded and finding ways to support them. One of the major partners in North Brooklyn is Riders for Rights. They do a regular food distro, and the North Brooklyn Community Solidarity Committee mobilizes members to support on that food distro.
I love that. And you just watch that, working with that person, watching that leadership emerge. That's so strong. So, but could you sort of give us an example of a story? Could be Mamdani campaign, could be other previous campaigns where you saw some of these tensions arise.
There's an extended process when we decide if we're going to endorse a candidate. And part of it is that the members participate in various like forums with the person that's running and get to hear from them. And then there's also just like a lot of conversation internally about like, how is this campaign going to go? What is it going to look like? And I think that, each time that we are running a candidate in a like majority people of color district, we have to grapple with the fact that most of NYC DSA's membership is white. And so we're known for having an incredible like ground game, a canvassing operation, getting people on doors. But usually the majority of our canvassers are white. And so when we're going into districts that are, majority or historically Black and gentrifying, it creates a lot of tension because people often don't identify with their white neighbors as people that are like really grounded in the community. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I was saying before how housing justice and Black people getting pushed out of these communities through gentrification has been like a big political impetus for me. And so I feel really clear on that as an issue. Unfortunately, people often, people see the individual people as the ones that are pushing them out rather than like the overall system and the policy around real estate development that makes the rent so high that it becomes unaffordable.
I just want to say, I love that you're saying this because, there's this discourse out here about gentrifier, colonizer, that's very individual focused, Now, look, I'm not necessarily here to defend any colonizer, That's not what I'm saying. But I love that you're saying that we do also have to look at this as systemic.
For sure. I think that they see young white people as a symbol of a problem that those people are not actually the ones creating, right? Like your enemy is not the white college student that can afford an apartment in your building. Your enemy is your landlord for raising your rent. But anyway, but at the same time, like, that's not to say that fear isn't real and that to see the way that your neighborhood is changing, like people experience that in their day to day. And so DSA needs to be really thoughtful about handling that. So with Ian Tyrell Huntley's campaign, like this kind of dynamic of like seeing DSA as like gentrifiers, colonizers, like white people really became like a huge issue. That narrative was weaponized against Ian like very purposefully. And he lost his race by like an incredibly narrow margin. It ended up being the most expensive race in New York State Assembly history because the opponent spent so much to defeat him, and he still only lost by, I think it was like 500 votes. So he is going to be running again this year. But what me and some comrades and Ian too have identified as a really high priority for this campaign and for DSA on the whole is to like build relationships with the community in such a way that like when an opponent comes around saying like, who is that? Like, he's just a puppet of white gentrifiers. He doesn't really represent you or know you. We're able to show and prove that like we have real community relationships. We've been out here. We've been doing things for the community that's more than asking for votes or asking to support a policy campaign. And so that's the kind of work that I am like trying to help move forward in the org.
So what are some of the things that you think that organizers of color do a little differently, or like different possibilities that they open up when they are in control of these campaigns and have the resources?
Well, I think that a really great example is We Grew Here, which is a new voter outreach operation that was born out of this Black Brooklynite named Shanae Curry, who saw the Zohran Mamdani campaign and thought that people in her generation, millennials, might not be like super engaged and really wanting to get them engaged around this candidate, and to be able to show that like Black native New Yorkers backed this candidate. And so she started doing voter outreach like in Canarsie, in East New York, in like neighborhoods in Southeast Queens. She and, her founding cohort have been really focused on like, how do we talk to our people? Sure, the campaign gives us a script, or what's called like the rap of what to say on the doors, but how do we adapt this to make sure that like it doesn't feel alienating and robotic and like coming out of somebody else's voice coming out of our mouths? We Grew Here has been really thoughtful about making sure that when they were collaborating on canvases with the Mamdani campaign, that they were helping the canvassers, get on top of that in a real way. And they even have a resource on their Instagram that's like pinned to the top that's like how to talk to your elders. And I think it's just important to we always say meet people where they're at or whatever, but like I just think actually listening to people and not just waiting for your turn to speak, like really letting yourself absorb the story that they're telling you and like try to connect it to your own stake and like what you really believe in is meaningful.
I think that's real. No, this is a good point. And I think a lot of Black communities I've done organizing and feel like they know that like people are going to come to them around election time, with the rap. So that's one thing. And they don't, I think, when you're on those doors or when you're at events that are organized, that's the time to actually hear what actually impacts people. Sometimes I feel like we show up with our analysis, but you got to hear how this stuff is landing with people, what people actually care about, And I remember being one time on the doors in North Philly, and I was talking about police. Now we had a script that was connected to our work with Larry Krasner and was trying to envision, a better solution to public safety. But, I remember asking somebody on the doors, this woman, I was like, what kinds of stuff is bothering you? And she was like, she was like, these young kids is getting shot, these young boys, somebody need to do something about that. And I was like, yeah, I tried to like pivot that, right? I was like, yeah, no, absolutely. I hear you. And I was like, this, this is also why we have to talk about the police a little bit, because sometimes they're the ones doing the shooting. And she was like, don't do that. She's like, I see what you're trying to do there. That's not what I said. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And her point was not, eventually we came to a sort of shared analysis around the problem of police. But she was saying, don't just run through your talking points. Hear what I'm saying. I'm worried about the intra-community harm. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest blessings of canvassing is my thing is if somebody opens the door, they want to talk to you. And same with phone banking. If somebody picks up the phone, they want to talk to you. And so I think it's actually an enormous privilege to have somebody open up to you about their own views and how things are going in their life in a way that we really don't experience in our day-to-day, communicating over social media and all of that. Yeah, it's a privilege for somebody to even be willing to really open up to you. So like take that seriously and listen. So that's one way that I feel about it. But I'll also say that, my perspective in this work is that at the end of the day, like it's not actually about the candidate. It's about the world that we're trying to build. And the world that we're trying to build requires people to like actually care for each other and want to work with each other. And so we have to show up in a way that demonstrates that like we're actually there to listen, and we want to win the improvements that people are telling us they want and need in their lives.
No, I love what you're saying, because when you have great candidates like a Zohran Mamdani or these other Ian Huntley, it's like you start being like, people sometimes think it's all about the candidate. And I love the way you're saying it's about how we relate to each other and transforming that, hearing from each other right now. So I want to ask you this. If I had to say, here's the top 3 things to not do when you're engaging with communities. What would those top 3 things be?
The number one thing not to do is like come asking people for stuff without like showing up for them in some way. To me, that feels really critical. And like, that's why I talked earlier about like the community relationship building. And that's also why I think actually that projects like Another World are like as important and critical as like the electoral and like policy campaign work, because like you're grounded in the community. You have a place where people can come and talk to you, and like you're offering resources to them, and like supporting them to figure out like what they want to see in the world. So yeah, I guess like my number one thing is like don't come with an ask all the time without being able to like either give receipts of what you have been able to do for people or be like showing up in the community in other ways.
Well, I feel like, could you tell us the story of the socialism is people? Because I feel like that really gets at this, right? Like it's not necessarily just about showing up for what you want or what your ask is, but just being there.
Yeah, so socialism is the people. The name might sound confusing, but it's actually a quote from a Fred Hampton speech. So the concept of the project is that a lot of New York City DSA's work is like citywide, but we actually are organized into like branches based kind of on neighborhoods, although they're very broad. Like there's like Central Brooklyn, North Brooklyn, Bronx, and Upper Manhattan. So what can we be doing like more directly in our neighborhoods outside of these citywide projects that really connects us with the community and gives us an opportunity to show up for them, so that they're like that hearing from us about our ass is not the only thing that they see from us, with a particular focus on trying to form relationships with community-based organizations and different kinds of like movement formations and projects, like tenant unions, like mutual aid distributions, like cultural organizations, like community gardens, building relationships with them to actually get our members like out doing stuff in their neighborhoods and showing up for their community in their neighborhoods.
Right. And like, because there's actually groups already doing things, serving the communities, right, in different ways. Some of those ways don't necessarily map onto what people's idea of political organizing is. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mutual aid work in some socialist circles, there's some skepticism around it because it's seen as charity. And I bring this up like all the time, but I think that a lot of people point to like the Black Panthers free breakfast program and how, these kids need to get fed, so the Black Panthers were feeding them. But like, it was actually a lot more than that. It was actually the Panthers trying to demonstrate to the people that they were able to show up for them in a way that the government was not. And that was why the government then started its own free breakfast program, so that like the Panthers could have notched one on them. So when we think about mutual aid, we actually can think about it as a political project of like demonstrating to the community that like we have the power to provide for their needs.
That's right. And I'm so glad you're saying that in the tradition of those survival programs by the Panthers, because to be fair, there are some mutual aid projects that lose their way. And because listen, it's in a world where everything is alienating, it's powerful to meet people's immediate needs right there, right? Like you're doing it right now. It's like, pre the revolution, right? But yeah, I really love your point that this has to be with a political program and a larger political agenda. And there's also that tradition, right? So let's not, and I think even other things, right? Even it might be a small business thing in the community. Like there's times where, people are like, look, this particular person has their small, thing or their way that they're helping, but we know them. They hear, you know what I'm saying? We don't know y'all. You know what I mean? Who are y'all? You know what I mean? And then actually listening to those people can help us understand like how maybe someone's small business, maybe whatever they're doing is in a certain way serving, or at least they have a vantage point on what the community needs right now.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. But I think that like the first step is just actually getting visibility on what the community is doing. Like, don't just assume that those mutual aid projects don't have a political backing, or don't assume that those small businesses, like that those owners don't have an analysis of what's going on in their neighborhood that they need. Like really getting in there and actually trying to map what's going on in the neighborhood, who's helping whom, and like how can we be in collaboration and partnership.
I'm curious, I don't want to get too rerouted, but I'm curious about your engagements with hustle culture. Because one of the things I found with certain parts of, even in my family or different parts of the Black community that would like to be doing political work with, is folks are very committed to the hustle, because for them, I think it represents what they perceive as an immediate way to address their real material needs. I might feel like the real things that are actually going to give us empowerment, economic empowerment, and things that are structural changes, right? Things like the kind of things that you see, the affordability on the Mamdani campaign, free transportation. Where are people, healthcare? Where are people spending most of their money, right? Rent. But I think those things might feel for a lot of people like, that requires me to rely on a lot of systems, and systems haven't been very good to our people. Politicians, I don't really trust them, but this flipping this real estate or this whatever, like, crypto. I mean, listen, I'm telling you what, I don't know am I alone in hearing that I hear those things from the community, and I feel like we're also up against those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's just like one more facet of the overall culture of you have to work to get anything, and if you're not working for it, you don't deserve it. So, I mean, it's another flavor of like bootstrap, like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And it was something that definitely came through when I spoke to, Black canvassers that were out on the doors in the community, and conversations that I had with Black people that didn't want to support Mamdani. There's a sense that like nothing in this world can be free, right? But what socialists are trying to say, it's like, yeah, it's not free, but we don't think you should have to pay for it. So I think, yes. And when I actually had, a couple years ago, I went to the Socialism conference, and I was like chilling, waiting to be able to like pay a check at a restaurant. And there was, a group of older Black people that were sitting near me, and they saw my like Socialist conference booklet on the table, and they were asking me like, what's the deal with all of this? And I told them, about socialism, I guess. And one of the men that spoke to me, he was like, you think that, but like, if I worked to get this thing, like, do you think that people that like didn't work for it should be able to get it? And I was like, yes, I do. Actually.
Yo, let's slow down for a minute. You in the restaurant, you said they were like older Black people? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you had to make the case for socialism?
Just like chilling, waiting for my check.
Waiting for your check at the restaurant? Like, oh man, that's like, so the first round was, oh, I worked hard for this, and you just want to give this to people for free? And your answer was?
Yes, I do. I think that like housing is a human right, access to healthcare and food is a human right. And I actually don't think that people should have to work to earn it. But this, again, just...
Well, hold on. So how did he respond?
I mean, that was not my best organizing conversation.
No, but I want to hear about this part, because this is the real. So what did he respond? He was like, well,
He was skeptical. And I think that that's normal. But I think that like what I would like to be able to get better at communicating around is like that the reason why you have to work for all these things is because we're inside of a system that is designed to make you feel like you have to work to have all of these things. Like, we're inside of a system that is designed to exploit you. And so, like, part of that means that system, it's not only like the nitty gritty of like, I need to pay for food, therefore I need to get a job so I can have money so I can pay for the food. It's not just those day-to-day things, but also like our culture and the narratives in our culture constantly reinforce that.
No, that makes perfect sense. And, you know, it's interesting because I think a lot of people do buy into some of these narratives about, you know, work and you have to have a work ethic and all that. But it's funny because I remember back when there were actually grocery store workers instead of just we're doing it ourselves because neoliberalism has delivered us a world in which we do more work, there's less jobs, and also we don't get the savings, right? But it's like, I remember like, you know, in some of these places, I would look and it's like still now, even in different parts of New York, like everybody at the cash register is a person of color. But their reward for work is being automated out, you know? And he's like, are those people not working hard enough? You know, why can't they afford healthcare? So yeah, that's just interesting. But it is also real that this is where I think some of these conversations start. Okay, a couple of things I want to hit. I know people are listening. They're hearing your brilliance, Maya, and I know people are like, I'm on board. I want to donate to another world. I want to come. I want to get involved with the work. You know what I mean? All of this. I'm going to read Hammer and Hope. So we're going to come with some calls to action. Can I join DSA through the Afrosocialist Caucus?
You can absolutely join DSA. The way that you join DSA is becoming a dues paying member. At $5 a month, or you can do a dues waiver if that's not affordable for you. And the Afrosocialist Caucus is actually a national body. So even if you are not in New York, if there's a DSA chapter in your city, there might be an Afrosoc chapter in your city. But for New York, join DSA, look out on the calendar for Afrosocialist events, and just come through to one, learn more about us and how to get involved.
And if I get involved, I'll be helping to do the work to deliver the world we want. Is that correct?
I mean, that's what I believe. I think to me, what's most important is like, if you do want to see a better world, you do have to join an organization. You don't have socialism without organization.
Right. I mean, yes. And I am a member of a few other ones. But also, if I join in New York, there's a chance I might get some of this cooking you've discussed from you, like at some event. It's a chance.
So I will say, after we won Socialism is the People, me and the team that authored that project, I did have all of them over for dinner. I made a custom cocktail with brown butter washed bourbon and cinnamon rolls for dessert. And like, we really, the wine pairings were lit, and we really had a good time. So,
oh my God, let me get my inhaler. All right. I mean, I'm not saying that that's why I'm doing it so that I can have that, but also that just to know that could be a thing if we, you know, at a certain point is very motivating. All right. What else do you want to say to folks about how to get involved, what we should be looking out for with these incredible midterm campaigns we got coming up?
Yeah, so definitely like learn more for New York, learn more about DSA, look out for Afrosoc. If you are in Brooklyn, all of our candidates have launched at this point, and you can volunteer with them to like knock doors to educate the community about the candidate and get the vote out. The ones that I've spoken about now are the ones we've announced so far, but we actually have the chapter is considering several other endorsements, some of which could be quite exciting, so stay tuned.
What about if you're in like Wyoming? I don't know if we have any listeners in Wyoming.
I think that people should look out for the political organizations that are wherever they are. And if you're not finding something that is as leftist as you are, be the change you want to see in the world. Join the organization and have the conversations and push.
I love that. That's dope. All right, cool. Well, Maya Meredith, you know what I mean? We are so excited to have you on the show. I can't wait for people to hear this conversation.
So that was Maya Meredith, our main course. And now we have our dessert. So if you've been listening to the show, you know that my daughter and Yola issued a call to find the best ice cream establishment in New York. And of course, that's a prelude to us figuring out the best ice cream places, elsewhere. And we want you to get involved with that. But pretty early on, I realized we're going to need some help because we're going to have to figure out how we can transport fresh cones of ice cream from one establishment to another, or sort of collect them in a fashion that they're still fresh enough for us to taste. Now look, y'all, I know that's a totally unserious mission, and I'm also here to let you know I'm completely committed to it. So to help us with this unserious mission, we found the perfect expert. Lauren Kalin is an artist based in Brooklyn who used to work in the ice cream business.
I want to restate and reaffirm that this quest that you and your daughter are going on, I can think of no more noble a quest.
I appreciate it. We appreciate that. All right. We need that validation.
Is your daughter going to be with you in these establishments, or you need to bring it to her?
Well, she could come with me, but I don't know. I was feeling like we need to build something.
You want to do like a true blind taste test?
Yeah.
Okay. What I think needs to be involved, and I don't know how acquainted you are with this, is dry ice, which is this kind of like magical, this magical and hazardous material, which is just like the solid form of carbon dioxide. And it's a really prized possession in the ice cream industry because it actually keeps things at, I think it's negative 109 degrees. So when you're shipping ice cream across the country, you utilize dry ice, and it can survive for 2 to 3 days in a package on its own without being in a freezer truck, without anything.
Now, I remember dry ice. For some reason, I remember dry ice from being a kid because it looks kind of smoky.
Yeah.
And then we were like, ooh, cool, smoky. And they were like, it can burn you.
Exactly. And when I worked at this ice cream company, we shipped ice cream all across the country, and you have to ship it on dry ice. But there are depots basically that where you would go if you want to get probably like 500 like Dove bars, like into deep Brooklyn, you would go to this like basically like ice cream depot, and they sell, mass quantities of Dove bars, frozen Snickers bars, popsicles, what have you. And they also sell dry ice at these places. And you can buy, cut dry ice and use that to transport ice cream in any form.
So I just walk into the place and I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying?
I think it would be an experience. Like,
should I whisper like, yo, dog, you know what I'm saying? Look around real quick like, yo, I need that dry ice. You got it. Are you the plug? Come on. Is that how it works, or is not that bad?
I mean, like, I don't know if they sell it like in the small quantity that you're looking for. Probably.
So it's not that they won't sell it to me. It's like you got to get a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've only purchased it in like 50-pound increments, but I'm sure they would accommodate. I don't think they're going to turn you away.
The level of knowledge you have about this makes me feel like you have been on some serious ice cream transportation missions.
The impetus for like me having to figure all of this out is because when I first started being called upon to ship ice cream across the country, we had to figure all of this out. And at the time, there were only like 5 of us working at this ice cream company. And so we were all doing everything. And we got popular really quickly. And there were lots of people that were trying to order this ice cream. And one of them was noted director Steven Spielberg.
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh my God. Like E.T. Steven Spielberg? Star Wars Steven Spielberg?
That
was that Robert Zemeckis?
I do not believe this.
George Lucas.
I don't think Steven
That's
Spielberg.
Really embarrassing. All right, y'all. So that was our conversation with Lauren Kalin. You can hear the full version of that conversation on our Patreon with the free subscription to the Patreon. So more reasons to go over to unrulysubjectspodcast.com. And listen, y'all, it's just, I know this is going down this ice cream rabbit hole is not serious, but we're going to keep going. You know what I mean? And I want you to come with us and get involved. And so, Patreon is a place to do that. Join us at patreon.com/unrulysubjects. The Unruly Hotline is 215-436-9212. Unruly Subjects is produced in partnership with Rohome Productions. Boy, I'm proud of Rohome. Alex Lewis is Rohome's creative director. John Myers is Rohome's executive producer. Big shout out to our special guest, Maya Meredith. Yeah, Maya. We appreciate you. Thanks to Another World for letting us, hang out in your space, learn about your space. Shout out to my wife, Sadaka, my daughter, Yola, my assistant, Carissa. Shout out to our ice cream transportation expert, Lauren Kalin. I want to show some love to all the people that are calling our voicemails. Keep calling, you know what I mean? Our original theme was composed by Axel Kakutier. Alex Tatusian made our tile art, and we got some merch coming soon, y'all. For our next episode, we'll be back with a fascinating report from Daryl Lee about how the Trump administration is using Title VI to weaponize anti-Semitism. So, y'all definitely don't want to miss this. And with that, y'all, we at the end. Let everybody know about the show if you liked it. You know what I'm saying? We're still building here. All right. See y'all next week. Rohome Productions. Unruly Subjects is supported by listeners just like you. Join us at patreon.com/unrulysubjects.